drops an atomic bomb.
Hello everyone, welcome back to our sort of overview of 1951. We'll kind of go over the overview for NATO for this game. So obviously the NATO countries include countries like Canada, Great Britain, France, Portugal, Italy, Holland, Belgium, Norway, all the African territories of the European powers at the time. And then Denmark, the British the British occupation zone of northern Germany. There are no, well, and then I guess out in the Pacific you also have the Canadian Pacific over there. So for the most part, NATO, I mean, starts out like pretty strong, as you can see with all these army markers there. With Israel as well too, I forgot. So like this is kind of like their main setup. So you have this force here in France. This blue represents 3. At one point during the game, like we were having so many units that we realized we needed a 4th color to stand in for 3 and another one to represent 10. So in this one, like gray is 1, blue is 3, red is 5, and green is 10. But so kind of going over, so you have this force in Holland, Belgium. You have this force, or no, this is in France. Holland, Belgium, northern Italy, northern Germany, the UK, and then Israel. And then NATO has a pretty decent sized navy. So they got their navy there in the Mediterranean. They have a naval force here off of Great Britain. And then some transports off of Canada over there. Overall, NATO as a whole, pretty standard. They're their own faction. This is primarily uniquely to NATO, the fact that they technically have 3 capitals. They have Rome, you can't really see it, but Paris, and then London. This will also be explained in some of our special rules, but as the Russians capture each of the NATO capitals, they get 1/3, like in every Axis and Allies game, if you take their capital for 1 turn, you get their IPC. In this case for NATO, as you capture each capital, you get 1/3 of the total IPC. And then from there, it goes from there. But overall, I mean, NATO starts, like I said, decently strong. There's no other real special ability for NATO outside of that fact that they have 3 capitals to take. So there's that. Like I kind of said in the sort of map overview video, Israel, though it's in most other modern versions of games where they take it into modern times, Israel is usually an affiliate of the United States. We chose to make Israel an affiliate of NATO because of the presence of British forces on the east side of the Suez Canal after Egypt went, basically after Egypt kicked the British out in mid-1950s. But Britain still kept forces around the Suez Canal. And so because Britain is part of NATO, we just decided to put Israel into the NATO faction. And then, coming down here, because Portugal, is part of NATO, places like Angola and Mozambique are no longer neutral. They're part of NATO, stuff like that. So you have the whole African countries that are NATO. Obviously, Libya and Egypt are neutrals at this point, because by the Korean War, both countries broke away from their respected European power. I think Libya, though, kept better, warmer ties with Italy than Egypt did with Great Britain. So that's pretty much sort of like a quick overview, at least of where NATO starts on the board itself. And, kind of going over, so kind of like what I did with the Americans, I'll kind of go over some of their pieces. Just give me a sec here. I remembered this time to grab my camera, my tripod, if you will. Okay, so for NATO, we had to build this team from scratch, but also kind of using leftover pieces. So for their infantry, we're using either HBG's neutral blue infantrymen or American infantry painted blue, sort of to represent that the United States basically helped fund a lot of the European powers' militaries after World War II because there was such a surplus of equipment. The mechanized infantry is represented by the HBG Mack trucks that you can get. The artillery is American artillery from Axis and Allies, painted blue. We couldn't find any artillery pieces at the time that we were building the team. Self-propelled artillery is also M7 Priest. For tanks, we have 3 options pretty much that we started playing with. So you can do a Sherman tank painted blue because of all the excess Shermans that the United States sold off after the war. Cromwell tanks were pretty much the premier British tank in the post-war world, at least for a bit in the post-war world. So we kept that as their as also another one of their regular tanks. And then the Centurions, we made their heavy tanks. So when Britain unlocks heavy tanks, they get the Centurions. And then the AA gun is the standard French AA gun from Axis and Allies. You can also, if you want to, you can substitute using the French infantry from Axis and Allies too, if you want to. Doesn't really matter as far as like infantry pieces go. For Air Force, for us, for fighters, we are doing the P-51 Mustang from HB. Like I said in the US video, all these pieces come from historical board gaming, so you can go there to find them. So we have P-51s for fighters, Gloucester jet fighters for their jets. We just went with the US Avenger tactical bomber for the tactical bombers, Lancasters for NATO strategic bombers, and then C-46s for their air transports. Now for the naval forces, it's kind of a mix, really. What was it? I can't remember the piece. Crap, I can't remember what they were. Think the submarine is the French roundable, the French roundable submarines with the La Fontique destroyers and the Siffrin cruisers. So French submarines, destroyers, and cruisers. And then we have the I think it's the British, if I remember correctly, it's the British Vanguard battleship. I mean, I'll have to relook that one up, but the Vanguard battleship. We initially, for the carriers, we were going to just use the Casablanca escort carriers for NATO, but after looking at them a bit, I didn't like the look of them for the game. So what I did was I took a couple excess British carriers from Axis and Allies, their illustrious carriers, painted a couple of them blue, gave them to NATO, and then the transports, they're the same the American-British transport pieces in Axis and Allies, just, painted blue. So those are the pieces for NATO for this game. Not much else. NATO, like I said, NATO starts off pretty strong. It does take them a little bit to get mobilized, though. And that's kind of part of the idea, is that, Russia has a lot of forces forward or near the border. So that way, they can try and capitalize on heading for their objectives, being the victory cities, as soon as possible. While it'll take NATO and obviously the United States just a little bit of time to get mobilized to try and, to obviously stem the Russian assaults. But so, that's basically NATO as a whole. Initially when we first created this game, NATO also, it was NATO Europe, NATO Pacific, until we discovered the SATO Alliance. So the SATO Alliance will be the next video, or at least will be the next faction video to come up in the playlist. Oh, he fell over. That's not good. But so yeah, Sato will be our next video as far as at least within the playlist of all the factions. So yeah, until then, guys, we'll see you next time for the Sato video. And I didn't mention this in the American game, but hey, drop a comment, drop a like, share this game idea with your friends. We've been playtesting this and building a new map and everything. We're probably no longer going to call it Axis and Allies. Oh, sorry about that. That's my dog. Be quiet. Sorry about that, guys. Obviously, like if we want to, we built an entirely new map, so we're probably going to move away from the Axis and Allies name. We'll probably start calling this game something else now, because initially this game was supposed to be a, you take the global 1940 board from Axis and Allies and you change it up a little bit to represent sort of the Europe and Asia of the 1950s, and then you go into the you go into this hypothetical Third World War. But as we researched and started playing with the map, things just kind of started to change. So then we went in and built an entirely brand new map. And, obviously because of that, we're probably, this technically has kind of evolved beyond being an Axis and Allies expansion. So, we'll probably end up changing its name. We'll have to change its name to something else, obviously, to avoid copyright and everything like that. But so, yeah, again, leave a comment, drop a like, share this channel with everybody, and we'll see you next time for the video on the Southeast Asia Treaty Organization. Take care, guys.